Today, we're talking about digging deeper into DEIA, leaning on the wisdom of Black history to strengthen volunteerism with our very special guest, Donte Curtis from Catch Your Dream Consulting. And welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Court, and I work here at Get Connected by Galaxy Digital in creative communications and outreach. And if you're not familiar with us, Get Connected is our best-in-class volunteer management software serving thousands of organizations across North America, and it's designed specifically to meet the needs of volunteer leaders and their programs. So we're so incredibly excited to have Donte with us today. He's the owner leader at Catch Your Dream Consulting, and with Catch Your Dream, Donte does keynotes and he consults and trains teams and organizations on leadership development, racial equity, inclusion, and supports teams to create practical change nationwide. Donte is currently also the co-chair of the board of directors at Social Enterprise Alliance Twin Cities and a member of the program investment committee at Youth Prize. And Donte today brings with him his 15 years of facilitation and speaking experience with an expectation of getting you energized, getting you taking practical action and finding hope for a better tomorrow. So he's really energetic, maybe one of the most energetic people you've ever met. And he lives a life that's dedicated to leadership, social justice, and liberation, and resides in St. Paul, Minnesota, with his wife, Rachel, newborn baby Malachi, and two dogs, King and Moose. So hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of them in some photos today. We're just really grateful that you're here, and we'll all work together to keep this a really healthy and respectful space, knowing that we've got folks who are brand new to volunteer leadership and those who've been doing this for a while. So with that, I'm going to say thanks so much for being here. And Donte, I'm just going to hand it over to you and let's get going.
Awesome. Let's do it. Hey, everybody. Hey, thank y'all so much for being here. Good afternoon to some of you. Good morning to some of you, depending on where you are and where you are physically right now. You know, good night to some of you even. Some of y'all might be taking this call across the pond somewhere. So shout out to you wherever you are. Man, you know, digital working is great, right? I'm actually at my house right now, but I wish I was in Greece. Let me tell you. So anyway, all right, friends, good. Happy Thursday to you. I'm so happy to be here. Court mentioned a newborn baby, and I'm sure that's the first thing in y'all mind. Y'all like, newborn baby, can we see him? I got you. This is Malachi. This is my firstborn son. He's 4 months. And can I tell you, friends, that it is the most beautifulest thing in the world to wake up to that smile right there. like literally this morning, I got that smile, even though he was like halfway out his crib, he had his legs stuck in his crib, but like he was still waking up and smiling, right? I wish he would cry more. I know that sounds crazy to think about, but this little guy this morning was stuck. He had one leg in between the bars of his crib, and like was just chilling, sleeping. Like I woke him up and was like, bro, this is where you tell, dad, mom, come save me, come help me out. He's that good of a baby. So this is Malachi, and he is amazing. There go my puppies. I'm sure y'all thought they were bigger with those names, right? They have really big names. They're just little small guys, and they're kind of sad these days because they had to move over for their baby brother, who's getting all the attention these days. And so that's the fam. And then of course, I would not be here, could not do this without my wife Rachel, who is a social worker at elementary school, and works with our elementary students every single day. That she's there. So that's the fam, friends. I just like to start there. This was already said, but we're gonna keep moving here. Court did a good job here. I want to actually, maybe there's one thing on here. No, it's not. Court mentioned the three things that I bring, right? Get energized, take practical action, find hope, and I just want to talk about that last one for a second, which is around hope. You know, I don't know about y'all, but in 2024, there's a lot of reasons for us not to have hope, right? And hope is important, right? Hope is an essential part of our work. I mean, a lot of y'all work in nonprofits, right? And we know that the work that we do is hard. We know that the work that we do is sometimes we are meeting people in their darkest times of their life. And so hope might not be the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. But I want to remind you and tell you, if you don't know, that Brian Stevenson says this about hope. He says, hopelessness is the enemy of justice. Hopelessness is the enemy of justice. In other words, What he's saying is that if you do not have hope, we will never get to justice. We will never get to liberation. Why? Because on the road to liberation, on the road to justice, there's roadblocks. Some of y'all are right now dealing with some roadblocks right now. We're about to talk about diversity and inclusion today. And depending on where you are and what state you in, you might be dealing with more roadblocks than other people. All right. So you need hope on this road toward justice. There might be some retaliation. There might be some rage. There definitely will be some rejection. And so we have to have hope, because when those days get dark, I need for you to have something to say. I'm going to get up and go up and show up and keep coming at this thing. And so hopelessness is in me of justice. I hope that you leave here today with a little more hope than you had when you came. I hope you leave here with a little more hope than you had when you came. Friends, I want to also wish you a happy Black History Month. Shout out to Get Connected and Galaxy for doing this in Black History Month. It was our collective idea. And so have Black History Month. I want to just do a quick little blurb on Black History Month real quick, because I can't miss this opportunity to educate you about the origins of Black History Month. So Black History Month, these 28 days, 29 days, I forget how many days are in February, right? The month of February. A lot of people, of course, 29, 28, 29, 29, okay? So a lot of times, friends, what we do is, and what you might have heard before, and you can put this in chat if you have heard this before, maybe you have said this or believed this. Black History Month is in February, and those Black people, man, they got the short end of the deal again. Like, why did they give us February? Why couldn't they give us March or April, January? That has more days in it. Why? Here we are again, giving Black people a bad deal. Well, I want to tell you, friends, when you have that kind of rhetoric and that kind of thinking, first of all, it tells me that that this notion is that that you might not know the history of this month. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about, and this actually just came up in chat right now, that Black history is every day. Right, Black history, right? There's this movement right now. There's this rhetoric. You can buy shirts and go to Target and get you a shirt that say Black History 365, right? And I want to agree to that, right? I believe that I'm Black. I'm blackity black all day long, right? I'm with that. But friends, I want to invite you to dig a little deeper into this, because what I'm hearing, all right, is I'm hearing people say we don't need Black History Month because we celebrate Black history all year round. Well, I got a couple questions for you. My first question is, are you really celebrating Black history all year round? And if you are, I need receipts. Like if you go say Black History 365, I need receipts. Okay, that's the first thing. But the second thing is, I'm hearing this in my rhetoric as I go around the country speaking. I'm hearing people minimize February. I'm hearing people say, well, we don't need Black History Month because we do this 365 days a year. And what I want to tell you, friends, is does anybody on this call, and you can put this in the chat, I got chat open, I can see. Does anybody in here celebrate your birthday? Like maybe you're like my wife and you celebrate your birthday year round. I mean, not year round, I'm sorry, a month long. So my wife's birthday is in the month of March. We're celebrating the whole month of March. Anybody else got like this? Anybody else celebrate their birthday? Y'all, you have a party, right? Say, happy birthday to you, Aaron, right? Your birthday is this Saturday, okay? Let's say that Aaron was having a party, all right? And we always come to this party, and instead of come to Aaron's party, we say, you know what, Aaron, we're not coming to your birthday party that you're having. We celebrate you year round. We're not celebrating you in February. We're going to celebrate you in April and in May and in June. Aaron, how would that make you feel? Right? You're probably thinking, wait a minute, but like I'm celebrating my birthday right now. And friends, what I want to tell you is that's what I hear, right? That's what I hear when I hear people talk about Black History 365. Again, I'm not against that. It's always a good thing, but don't do it at the minimization of Black History Month, because Black History Month was created by a Black man, Carter G. Woodson. Now, the reason why, right? The reason why he created Black History Month, it used to be a week, okay? It used to be a week. It was called Negro History Week all the way back in 1926. And the reason he did it in February was because there are two people important birthdays in February. The first one is it's Abraham Lincoln, whose birthday is on February the 12th. Okay. The second one, the second one is Frederick Douglass's birthday, whose chosen birthday was on February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery. and freed himself, ran away and freed himself and became a great orator and the abolitionist that we know today. But he chose his birthday on February 14th. And so when Carter G. Woodson was looking at when do I want to celebrate Negro History Week, that's what it was called. He said, I want to do it in February. And then, of course, it wasn't until the 1960s where we made this a national celebration, it was a global celebration, and turn it into a month. So again, friends, Black History Month was created by a Black man. And so I just want to make sure that as we talk about amplifying Black voices, right, as we talk about inclusion, as we talk about equity, right, it's kind of some dissonance to say, well, we're going to kind of minimize February. No, don't do that. What I would argue is celebrate February and also celebrate it all year round too. But don't say, well, we don't need Black History Month when a Black man created it. Okay, so anyway, I'm gone. All right, I'm done. We're off this. Have Black History Month to you. I'll say one more thing. I hope that we are celebrating Black history and not just talking about it. Okay, we can talk about that later at the end of the day. That's not what we're here for. Okay, let me keep going, friends. Here's our work for today. Okay, our work today is on let's see here, bring back difficulties from different perspectives. Awesome, thank you, Victor. So our work today, friends, is to use Black history as a way to dig deeper into our understanding of diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. So I'm going to invite you, for the people who are like, Dante, I know about DEI already. I've read the books. We have book clubs. We talk about this all day long in our organization. For those people who are here, I'm going to invite you to really sit with and really reflect on what we're about to do today and push yourself to dig deeper. For the people who this might be new, where maybe it's not new, you know about DEI, but you're not immersed in it, right? Your organization don't have a real DEI commitment. Y'all don't really talk about DEI. Y'all don't do DEI trainings quarterly or monthly. Like for those of you, I want to invite you to allow yourself to be pulled a little bit, right? Because some of us are pushed and some of us are pulled, and I hope that we can meet in the middle of this conversation and all get something. I'm gonna challenge you today, friends. I'm gonna challenge you, right? I love that, Crystal, right? Even if you don't talk about, there's something to learn, right? Even if you do talk about, there's something to learn. I'm gonna challenge you today, friends. That's my work. That's what I do every single day. I push people, I coach people, I bring people further along in their journey. And and if you are open, hopefully you will get something today. So we're gonna have a conversation. I know that I cannot hear y'all, but I want to have a conversation today. So I'm in chat right now, and I will ask some questions, and I want to invite chat to sound off, and I will read them and have a conversation with you that way. Okay. So friends, I want to start with diversity. When you think of diversity, what comes to your mind? How do you understand diversity? How do you talk about diversity? Put this in chat, friends. Yeah, for sure. We should definitely start pushing kindness. I agree. I agree. So, friends, when you think about diversity, what comes to your mind? Awesome. Natasha said diversity of thought. All people coming from different backgrounds and learning. Diversity of experiences, a community that represents all the residents. Kindness is free. I believe that. We all created in the image of God. Yep, for sure. Respect, kindness, and invitation to participate. Rights to all. Embracing differences. Provides a safe space for all types of all type of thoughts. Okay. Now, friends, what I want to highlight is why we are doing this activity. Okay. And I think, is this in here? Let's see if this is in here. Okay, no, it's not in this one. So I want to highlight something real quick. I want to talk about acronyms and how we think about acronyms. Okay. So y'all use acronyms every day. If you're like me, a lot of folks, when they start on their first day at the job, one of the things they get handed is a list of acronyms, right? Because we love acronyms, we love abbreviations. Well, a lot of times when we use acronyms, they stand for one thing. So here's what I mean by this. You can give me some acronyms if you want to in chat, but I'm thinking about acronyms like IDP, which in HR stands for Individual Development Plan. It's one thing, right? When we think about states and we abbreviate states, we're talking about one state, right? MN, WI, SC, right? We're talking about one state here. PLC, right? People of color, right? Jedi. So friends, I wanna invite you to think about sometimes what happens. Has this ever happened to you where someone asks you about what an acronym is and it take you a second to remember what it was? Has this happened to you? This happened to somebody a couple days ago. I was in a room with, and they was like, they said acronym. And I said, what does that mean? They was like, oh, now I remember, right? Because our brain shortcuts us using acronyms, and sometimes we use them so much that we forget what the real meaning of the words were. Well, a lot of us use DEI, and that's what we do. That's what we say. We say DEI work. We're doing DEI work. I'm a DEI champion. And so the first thing we have to understand is the psychology of acronyms. The second thing I want to tell you is that in our acronym DEI, there are commas in between them. It's not like other acronyms you use. There's commas. So what this tells me is that there are 3 different words and they have 3 different meanings. Now, this is important because as I talk to y'all about diversity, I just want you to know that as I talk to you about diversity, right? Somebody said laugh out loud, right? Yeah. So again, laugh out loud, right? Again, there's no acronyms there. It's all one thing, right? So right, PENDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That is an acrostic, not an acronym, but yes, there are multiple things there for sure. I would say a majority of acronyms we don't have commas. So friends, there's commas in these words. It's diversity, comma, equity, comma, inclusion. 3 different words, 3 different meanings. And so as I mentioned, as I asked you what diversity was, right? Some of y'all gave me the right answer or a good answer. I'll say it was, I mean, I'm saying it right because anyway, somebody gave y'all good answers. But sometimes what we do is we will slip into other words when we're talking about one thing. And that is, I think, part of the problem, because when you say DEI as a catch-all, we need to know what this means. So that's what we're going to spend our time doing today, friends. So back to diversity. I'm going to go back up and read some of y'all comments. Y'all said diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, diversity of languages. Some of y'all said diversity. Let me go back up here real quick. Somebody said including everyone is different, and that's what's up. Range of lived experiences, embracing different identities. Okay, so diversity, friends, and y'all said this, right? All of y'all, or most of y'all had the word differences in your answer. Different experiences, different this, different that, right? Everyone is different. So diversity is simply about the presence of difference. Now, I want to dig deeper into this for you because if that's the definition, then what that means then is that diversity is always present. And so we have to dig deeper into this because that's quite not what we're talking about. Okay, so I want to start with some Black history and give you a little bit of Coretta Scott King. I know we always talk about her husband, but we kind of leave out the women in the movement sometimes. So let me give you what Coretta Scott King says. She says freedom and justice cannot be parceled into pieces to suit political convenience. I don't believe that you can stand for freedom from one group of people and deny it to others. Okay, so what Coretta Scott King is saying is that you cannot be all about race and deny justice to young people. Right, you right. Thank you. Right, none are free until we're all free, Ted. Right, that's what she's saying. Right, that's the crux of what she's saying. That we have to work. Right, that we have to work to make all of us be free. And so when I think about diversity, a lot of times, and y'all didn't bring this up, a lot of times diversity means race. I want you to think about when your organization says that we need to bring in diversity. What does that mean? Are we talking about just race? And it's okay if you are, but I think we need to be clear about that, right? Because diversity could mean a whole bunch of things. And here go just some of the things that diversity could mean. Okay. So you have race, family structure, cultural background, political affiliation, which we know we don't talk about that enough. Right. So here goes some things that diversity could mean. Now, again, when we talk about diversity as a country, right? When we talk about diversity as a in the national conversation, diversity means Black and brown people. All right, let me just be clear about that. That when the Supreme Court or other places are talking about diversity, normally they're talking about Black and brown folks. All right, but again, I want you to think about diversity is much more than just race. Diversity has to do with ability status. Diversity has to do with how you think. Diversity has to do with whether your perceptions of volunteerism, right? So like we have to understand that diversity is much more than just one facet of thing. Now, I want to tell you right quick that we all have all of these, right? So when I said that all of us are diverse, right? Everybody on this call has all of these in some way, shape, or form. Okay, all of us do, and so you could spend your whole life, and I hope you are, just trying to understand yourself in all these categories. I mean that's a whole look. That's a whole thing on itself when we talk about awareness. Okay, you also have to consider thinking about other people's stuff. Okay, so again, that's why this work is really complex and really hard and is a lifelong journey, because sure, you might be good about your race, but what about health status, right? What about your spiritual beliefs and other people's spiritual beliefs? What about your own thinking style and other people's thinking styles? Like I mean, this is a lot of stuff. Ted said minorities and underrepresented groups are just categories of attributes with we all exist in some category of, for sure, right? So we all have all of these. Okay, now what I want to tell you, friends, is I want to invite you to think about we're not there yet. I want you to think about diversity and maybe a new light. Okay, intersectionality. Yeah, we can talk about that too. So I want you to think about diversity in a new light. Okay, I want you to follow me here. Let's say that you are a youth serving organization. All right, do we have any youth serving organizations here? Do we have anybody who serve youth? If you do, can you? Awesome. Well, Chris said we serve youth, right? Youth serving organizations, right? So organizations that serve youth, and I see a lot of people are saying yes. Okay. When you think about youth, what's the age range of youth? So what's the top age range? Some people started at 12, some people started at 8, some people started at 24. I know I serve on the youth serving board. Some people say, right, some people say 26, some people say 30. Okay. So for the sake of my argument, okay, because I see a lot of 20s in here, 15 and a half to 24. Interesting. Okay, wow, very specific. Okay. So we advocate for children in the foster care system. Awesome. So maybe the 18 to 21, depending on when they age out of the foster care system. Okay. So for sake of my argument, to make sure I catch all of y'all, I'm gonna say that you serve youth, and everybody on your team, everybody in decision-making power, and everybody on the board are over the age of 30. Okay? Track me here. Follow me. Now, everybody is above the age of 30, so that's their age. Okay? However, these people who are in decision-making power, who are maybe even your volunteers, okay? People who are in positions of authority in the organization, they're all over the age of 30. However, racially, y'all great. Y'all have Black people and brown people. Y'all have indigenous. Y'all have some of our indigenous relatives, right? Y'all have people, let's say, from gender. Y'all have people who are men and women. Y'all have non-binary folks. Y'all have gender expansive folks. Y'all have people who identify as two-spirit. Y'all have people who identify as queer, right? So gender. So y'all have Black queer folks and brown queer people, right? Y'all have Black trans folks, right? So okay, let's keep going. Let's say religiously, y'all good there too. Y'all have people everywhere from Christian to Islam. Y'all have some Jews. You have folks who are agnostic. You have people who are seeking. You have people who just are against religion. You have some people who believe in spirituality, and some people who believe in astrology. So you're good there. Let's say that the socioeconomically, you have people who are in poverty and you have people who are millionaires. Let's say that you have people who make $150,000 a year, right? Let's say that I do one more of these and then we're gonna move on. Let's say family structure, right? Let's say that we have people who are let's say that we have people who are in the adoption community. Let's say that we have people who are foster parents. Let's say that we have people who have single parent households and dual parent households. You have people who are in heterosexual relationships and people who are in non-heterosexual relationships, right? So again, these are all the people who are representing this youth serving organization, but everybody is over the age of 30. I got a question for you. Are you doing diversity? It's a yes or no question. Are you doing diversity? Okay. Oh, see, hey, we got some contention in here. Okay, so here's the thing. For the people who are saying no, and the majority are saying no, I want say why. Why are you saying no? Right? Seemingly only in age, wish there was more. Right? We have a staff that are 21 to 25. Young people are different, are very different since I was one, right? Right. There's a potential for ageism. So again, friends, I wanna invite you and you to listen. Let me say this. I'm just inviting you to think deeper. That's my goal here. You don't have to believe what I say, but I do want to invite you to ask yourself and your team some tough questions. So here's the thing. I think you're not doing diversity. Are you diverse? Heck yeah, you're diverse, but you're not doing diversity. Very key difference here, because diversity demands that the people in the room, that the people who are in the room, that the differences that are present actually make a difference. So I could say that me and Court are different because I like Snickers, she like Reese's. But like that difference doesn't matter so much if we're working with young people, right? Unless we're so again, diversity is about the differences that make a difference. It's about making sure that who you are serving are in decision-making roles. You serve young people, you need young people. You serve people who are seniors, you need people who are seniors. You serve people who are in poverty, you need to make sure that people who are in poverty are represented on decision-making tables. Diversity is not just about making sure that the difference is present, because that's always there. We want to make sure that it's actually going to make a difference in the room. And friends, what I want to tell you is that what this also means, and we're going to move on to inclusion real quick. What that also means is that race may not be your main thing, because some of you live in rural parts of this nation, and there are some places where there might the two black and brown people already on your board. The two black and brown people already in decision-making power. So you might be scrambling, figuring out, well, everybody talking about race and race is getting uplifted as a thing. And I'm not saying it's not true, but if you live in rural Minnesota, I'm gonna even look at some of these other problems, some of these other categories of difference, and pay attention to those. Because if you live in rural Minnesota, poverty might be your thing. Socioeconomic status might be your thing. And we have to understand that we have to really make sure that we are being real with ourselves and asking, are we being representative of the people that we are serving? Are our volunteers representative of the people that we are serving? Because you can get into paternalism, you can get into ageism if that's not the case. I want to read this quote real quick. Remind me of a quote that says, I see a lot used with disability. Nothing about us without us is for us. Yeah. I actually just took a picture of that quote. This is in an office that I just sat. Yeah. So again, this notion that nothing without us, about us, is for us. Right. So again, friends, diversity is really about making sure that those who are represented are at the decision-making table. For you all, it would be making sure that the people that you are serving are also people who are in volunteer roles, people who are the volunteers, right? You cannot have, well, you can, but I would argue that we're trying to change this. That's why we're here, right? We got to stop having all white volunteer boards, all white volunteers showing up in a black community on President's Day, right? On a federal holiday from the corporate place. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that. Why can't you find black and brown people to volunteer in black and brown communities? Matter of fact, we're already doing it. There's some dissonance there, right, about who gets to volunteer and who doesn't. But friends, think about how we are perpetuating paternalism, how we are perpetuating white saviorism, how we are perpetuating some of these things just by that happening. And so we have to make sure that we are living that diversity. And again, it's not just about race. I'm going to move on because we got to go and we don't have a lot of time to get there. Let's talk about inclusion real quick. Look, I only got 3 of these, so we're good, right? Let's talk about inclusion. Okay, inclusion says, okay, now, diversity is about people just being present. Okay, that's all it is. Literally, friends, grab the sign-up sheet and say, "Hey, come on, that's diversity. It's about letting you into the room. It's about you being at the table. But just because you're at the table doesn't mean you're going to be included. Has anybody in here had a situation where you were invited to the table, you was invited to the meeting, you was invited to the boardroom, and when you got there, you might as well not have been there because as a woman, the men were disrespecting you, catcalling you. Ah, look at these yeses coming through, right? They were catcalling you, right? They were invisibilizing you. You would say something as a woman, and the man would say something else, and they would say, "Oh, that's a great idea, sir." Right? Well, you didn't just mention that she just said that, right? So we have to understand that it's possibly present and still being visibilized. And how many times do we invite people to rooms and then they don't want to be there anymore because we're not doing inclusion? So just because you have the diversity, that's great. But we have to move on to the next step, which is inclusion. Inclusion is about honoring. I want you to listen to these words. I want you to really listen to these words and think about what comes up for you when you hear these words. Honoring, celebrating, and adapting to the differences, right? Friends, friends, I'm not saying, right? When you honor something, when you celebrate somebody, right? There's more energy put towards this, right? This isn't just toleration. I'm not just talking about you acknowledging somebody. Acknowledging is not celebration. Honoring is not celebration. I think about when we have birthdays or when a dignitary comes to the White House or shows up to a country, the level of honor they get. Are we honoring? Are we celebrating? So we ask volunteers to show up. We're gonna ask volunteers to show up. We're gonna ask volunteers to come. And these volunteers have different ways of showing up. They have different perspectives. They have different ways of being. So there might be someone who needs to go pray at a certain time, right? There might be mothers who are nursing. Are we honoring the differences, or are we asking our volunteers to assimilate to what we know or what we think we know? You can either adapt or you can assimilate. Those are the 2 options. So I want to tell you, friends, inclusion is deeper than you just saying you understand pronouns. Right? Inclusion is different than you just saying, "Oh, I see your holiday." Inclusion is about making them feel that you feel that they're honored and celebrated. Now, Audre Lorde got something to say about this, and y'all know Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde is an activist and a civil rights as a civil rights poet. I see some hearts going out for Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde says, "It is not our differences that divide us. Rather, it is our inability to recognize and accept and celebrate those differences." Friends, we're all different. That's a fact. What Audre Lorde is trying to get us to see today is, can we celebrate those differences? And I don't know about you, but when I think about celebration, right? When I think about celebration, celebration is much more than me just saying something. Oh, friends, when I see celebration, I think about when I had a wedding a couple years ago and people came to celebrate us, right? They took time, they took energy, they took effort, they got dressed up, right? They brought presents, they brought gifts, right? There was some financial components to this, right? Think about when you celebrate stuff. Think about when you celebrate holidays, when you celebrate birthdays, when you celebrate maybe a major birthday in your life or in someone you love life, when you celebrate a new baby. It's something extra. It's not the same old thing every day. It's something extra. And you want to make sure that the people who you are celebrating feel that they are being celebrated. Oh yeah, friends. Oh yeah. Are we doing inclusion? I mean, are we doing inclusion here? Right? Because if I can't feel it, you're not doing it. Let me say that again. If I can't feel it, you are not doing it. I just believe that. Dr. Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou would say that she learned over the years that people will forget what you said and people forget what you heard, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Yeah, how you made them feel, right? And so, friends, I want to invite you to think about: are you being inclusive? What's your volunteer engagement strategies? With the people who work on your team? Whether it's pronouns, whether it's people ways of thinking, whether it's people ways of showing up, people's dress, right? People's perception of time and how they think about time. Are we celebrating? Are we adapt to those differences? Now, I want to tell you, friends, there's a few levels of inclusion. Oh, there goes the quad. I didn't know that was right there. There goes some code, right? So I want to say, friends, that there's a couple levels of inclusion. I want to help you out here. Victor, you said smiling comes a long way. Thank you. And please even further. For sure, yeah, smiling is great. Yeah, there's a lot of research in smiling. I would say that what would I say? I would say that we're doing a little more, we need to do more than smiling. People can smile in your face and still be mean to you. People can smile in your face and still have racism. People can smile in your face and still not understand pronouns. So I want to say, friends, that you know, again, smiling is cool, but you know, they smiled in a whole bunch of people's faces, our ancestors, and they were still having dogs and hoses and still enslaving folks. So I get it, but we're going deeper than surface level here. There's a couple levels of inclusion, friends. The first one is you can be against inclusion, just totally against it. Like I'm not doing pronouns today. Y'all know anybody like this? Where when things like pronouns come up, or maybe bathrooms for all humans, or even talking about DEI, right? We don't talk. I don't even want to talk about that at work, right? And so we're just against inclusion, and we all know people like this. Whereas, friends, there's also this notion too, right? Thank you, Chris. Right, we face this every day, right? The next level is acknowledgement. This is where you say, okay, I'm gonna start to acknowledge, right? You know, I don't may not believe it, but I see, you know, I see that there's differences around. You're gonna acknowledge it, right? The next level is acceptance. It's one thing for you to see this, another thing for you to say, hey, I'm going to accept this thing, right? Someone said, Diwali, I love this. It's not volunteer my position role. Okay, I don't have time to read all that. Acceptance, friends, this notion that now you're saying, hey, I'm going to accept these differences. These folks have a valid point, and they're human like me, and I'm going to accept them. The next one is accommodate. Now, accommodation is what we typically do in our work, friends. Accommodation is reactionary, and it means that we have to explain, that somebody has to explain to you what accommodation they need, and then you do it. But y'all, I want to tell you that's exhausting. I want to tell you that that's not true inclusion. If I have to tell you what I need, I wasn't included in the first place. Okay. And so we need to raise the bar on what we're accommodating to begin with. Now, there are some situations where you can't know everything, and I understand that. But y'all, people are literally working at organizations, are volunteering at organizations, and some of them are long-term volunteers. And every time they come, we have to ask them their dietary needs. Can you just put that in the form when they sign up, so that I know when I show up that I know I'm gonna have food for me? Like we have to raise the bar so that people don't have to continuously ask for accommodations. And that is called adapting. And so adaptation says that we are going to adapt our situation to the needs that the people we are serving, to our volunteers. We're going to adapt before they even come and say, before they even ask us. We're gonna create a space that said we're gonna have this this through. Courtney said a question came through. Go ahead, Courtney. I'll take time for one.
In your perspective, how do you embrace DEI when someone's fundamental beliefs conflict with someone else's and differences or fundamental beliefs? So that sounds challenging.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Right. So friends, what I would tell you is for me, right? I think about conversation, having conversations with folks. If you will just, right, because what we tend to do is when we have these conversations, we tend to start from a debating standpoint. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it, right, friends? I'm about to debate you because I know that my beliefs are right. We tend to have a debating conversation, and that's not gonna work. I don't care how that's not gonna work, right? What I would invite us to do is get curious, right? When you get curious with folks, and sometimes it's hard. I'm not saying this is easy, but when we get curious with folks, we can start to I think get down to people's really their values, right? Just get curious, folks. Ask people questions. My favorite question, if you have a hard time coming to a question, whenever someone says something, just say simply, "Tell me more." Tell me more. Question mark. And then that will start unpeeling and having to really think about, well, when I say Black Lives Matter, you say all lives matter. Oh, tell me more about that. Again, I'm not going to say, well, why do you think all lives matter? No, 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 no. Tell me more about that. Right? What did you hear when I say Black Lives Matter? Right? So friends, it's important that we have to understand, right? That we have to understand that we have to really. Your supervisor say what all the time, Crystal? That all lives matter? What part? I gotta make sure. I gotta make sure I did this. Oh, tell me more. Okay. So again, friends, tell me more. Right? It's a really great tool. And what I have found is it kind of lowers people's defenses a little bit. Right? It kind of lowers people's defenses a little bit because now you're asking for more information. So I would say get curious with folks. And then also, friends, I'm gonna be real with you. Can I be real with y'all today? Sometimes, sometimes you need to know when to walk away from a conversation. Listen, y'all, we don't have time, right? We don't have time to be trying to force and debate, and I don't have time for that. I am going where I am welcomed. And so, friends, I just want to tell you, friends, that sometimes, right, sometimes it's just better for you to say, you know what, I'm going to withdraw myself from this conversation today. Thank you so much. We can still talk, we can still be in touch, but I'm not, I don't have energy for this today. And that's okay too, right? Because your job is not to convert, your job is not to convert. Your job is not to convince anybody of anything. Okay, I'm going. I gotta go. We gotta go. We got I got like 3 more minutes to get through all this. I don't know if it's gonna happen. All right, so let's talk about equity for a second, friends. And I'm gonna skip some of these slides, okay? Now, equity, okay, equity is all about resources. Okay. So diversity is about being present, inclusion is about celebrating, and equity is all about resources. Right. So how do we think about how we're distributing resources, right, based on the differences that are present? So think about this, friends, that again, people show up who are different. We celebrate them. And now we have to talk about the resources, things like power, time, money, right? How we distribute those, that's equity. That's equity. All right. And so friends, equity is so important because we're trying to get people access to stuff. And what happens is that if we don't do equity, they're never going to be able to show up because they don't have access to the same stuff. So at the top of this slide here, we see here that you see equality. Now, equality says everybody get the same thing. All right. Equality says that I wear a size 10 shoe, and for the 209 people on this call, I'm going to give everybody a size 10 pair of shoes. That's not gonna work, right? Because I wear a size 10, and you might wear a size 8. You might wear a size 11. Some of y'all wear a size 15, right? Like I can't give everybody the same shoe and think that's going to work for everybody. That's equality. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so that's what we see at the top here. Everybody get the same bike. Everybody got the same resource. And we see this isn't working. You see over here, somebody is totally excluded from the situation, can't ride their bike. Think about how many people can't volunteer with you right now because they literally are in a whole different situation, right? So we have to adapt our needs to that individual, right? Because you're saying show up on Mondays at 8 o'clock, but they don't have transportation, right? So again, we're talking about how we dish out resources. Okay, you see that these people are riding their bikes, so they have access, but it's not optimal, right? So they're showing up to your volunteer experience, but this is unsafe. This person may be okay, and this person is actually riding their bike, but they're doing it at the expense of their bag. So now they got it. So now they're going to ask you to go to the chiropractor afterwards, right? Because equality does not work. It may work for some, but it's not work for everybody. We see on the bottom here, equity is happening. Now you see where there are 4 different bikes. in the bottom example. What would it look like for you as a volunteer coordinator, as you as an AmeriCorps manager, to do equity at your organization? See, we talk about equity we talk about equity as a destination. Equity is not a destination. Equity is the journey. Justice and liberation is the destination, right? These people are liberated. All right. These people are liberated. They are free. This is justice, right? And so sometimes even how we talk about equity, I want to make sure that we're talking about it in the right way. People say that we're going to get to equity. Nah, we're trying to get to justice. You do equity. Yeah, you do equity. And so friends, you said at the bottom here, if you use your collective imagination real quick, I want you to think about this bike over here real quick, and then we're gonna move on. Okay, this bike over here, this person, when they showed up to your experience, to your volunteer experience, and you said, "What do you need to participate?" They didn't even know. Has that ever happened to you before? Where you ask a group of folks, you ask somebody, "What do you need?" And they're like, "I don't know what I need. I don't know. I know I need something, but I don't know what." And so I want you to think about this, friends, that for this person over here to ride this bike, right, to do this situation, right? Yeah, you can meet them where they are, right? And that's real. But sometimes the volunteers don't know where they are. So I'm just using my imagination. I don't know if this is true or not, but this person right here came to the organization and did not know that a three-wheeler bike even existed. And so you had to call a consultant. You had to call the design team. You had to call a group of engineers and say, "Hey, you had to come on Google. Hey, how do we get a bike for this person? Oh, this is gonna cost more money." So understand that equity is an investment. It's probably not going to be cheaper to do this. Up here, you know what you did? You went to Target and Walmart and did the buy three, get one free deal. Because we're nonprofits and we own a budget. So you went to go buy 3 bikes and you got 1 bike free. And you handed it to everybody and said, "Here you go." And now we're in this situation. Are you doing equity at your organization? Are you doing equity at your organization? Every single day, are you thinking about how you are distributing the resources, the time, the opportunities, the gas cards, the food? Are we thinking about this? Because we need to be. All right, I gotta go. I gotta move on. We got about 2 more seconds here. So friends, I want to tell you that these are 3 definitions. Okay, these are my own definitions. You won't find these on Google. You won't find these on Wikipedia because I created them. And the reason I created them is because we need to be able to articulate these things. Okay, I'm gonna quickly talk about anti-racism and then I'm gonna be done. Anti-racism is the A, DEIA, and it is the reminder that you have to be actively in opposition of resistance and racism in all its forms. And I would argue other forms of oppression. So it's anti-racism, but you need to be anti-sexist. You need to be anti-patriarchy. You need to be anti-homophobic. You need to be pushing against these things, because if you're not, you are going to contribute to the problem. Now, I like to think about this. I like anti-ism, right? You just need to be just be against all the isms. I like that. And are you asking a question, or are you saying like be anti-ism? Because I like that if you are. Okay. I want you to think about this analogy real quick, friends. This ball, right? Oh, be anti-ism. I love that. This ball is going down the hill. This ball does not need help going down the hill because gravity is working. In order for the ball to get up the hill, we have to push it. And I'm going to tell you, friends, when MLK was alive on April 3rd and he gave his last speech, he said that he had been to the mountaintop. I love that analogy that he talked about a mountaintop, because, friends, when we are trying to get to a justice, it's a hard road. And there are people and forces and systems pushing against us. AmeriCorps funding it's literally on the chopping block every 2 years. I know, because I'm an AmeriCorps member, a former AmeriCorps member, and every single year they were like, "We may not have a job in 2 months," right? And so we're on an uphill battle. Y'all are on an uphill battle. And so I love that MLK said he's going to the mountaintop. Y'all, we got to push. And I don't know about you, but somebody said always, right? I don't know about you, but friends, have you ever rode your bike up a hill and it was so hard you decided to get off and walk it up because it was easier to walk than it was to roll? So, friends, again, anti-racism. And here's the thing: if for this ball, if you stop pushing this ball, it's gonna roll back down the hill. It's gonna roll back down the hill. And so when this is how I think about anti-racism. Anti-racism is that I have to be actively opposing Because if I stop, the ball going to roll back down the hill. We have to be pushing, even if it's a little bit. Even if it's a little bit. Sometimes you might just have to bring your back and just put your back against the wall. Put your back against the ball, right? That's enough. And sometimes that's all we're doing. But you have to be doing something. All right, all right. Archbishop Desmond Tutu says this. He says, if you are neutral, okay, if you do nothing in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Okay. So again, friends, you have to actively push against racism. Now, I don't have time to do all this. Yeah, somebody said your inaction is action. Yeah, it sure is, because gravity is working. Okay, friends, look, what time is it? Okay, I'm gonna run through these real quick. I'm running these real quick. I want to do a Q&A with y'all. So I got 7 A's for you. So I'm writing a book. I'm not writing a book on this, but my second book is going to be on this. So connect, follow, check out. Okay. So when we talk about anti-racism, what are some of the actions you need to be doing? Okay. I got a few actions for you. Okay. The first one is awareness. Y'all are here today to raise your awareness. You need to be reading. You need to be listening to podcasts. You need to be learning history. You need to be learning about yourself. You need to be in a space of learning. Some people call it growth mindset, right? Because if you're not learning, you are literally dying. Like literally, like your brain will regress if you stop learning. Okay, so we need to continue to learn. The next one is analysis. And analysis just means that we need to have a framework for what we're learning. You need to really bring a framework for this, right? We need to really analyze and analyze what we're talking about. The next one is acknowledge, and this has to do with your own role in what you're learning. So it's one thing for you to learn about racism. It's one thing for you to learn about homophobia. It's one thing for you to learn about sexism. It's one thing for you to learn about misogyny. It's one thing for you to learn about ableism, right? You can learn about that. You can analyze about it. But now the next part is, how am I contributing to ableism? How am I contributing to racism? How am I contributing to sexism? How is Donte contributing to misogyny? Right? So it's the acknowledgement part that you got to really peel back, and some of us need to go to therapy for DEI. That's a whole nother issue for a different day, right? But like, we need to have a therapy session with ourselves and say, hey, well, what am I doing? Okay. The next one is articulate, and this has to do with your with your ability to tell other people. All right. Some of us are going to go back to our programs today after this call and say, Donte said we need to be more DEI focused. And they're going to say, what does that mean? I need for you to be able to articulate what that means. Because we all are trying to articulate this, and we have to do a better job of it. The next one is action. And action is number 5 for a reason. Because some of us want to rush from awareness to action. You can't do that. Have you ever tried to fix a problem really quick before getting input? Have we had a problem with that in this country? Have you ever tried to just rush to a problem? We hurt ourselves. And so we have to do other stuff before we get to action. The next one is accountability. We need to make sure that we hold people accountable. You need to hold yourself accountable. You need to hold your organization accountable. If you say you're going to change something around volunteerism at your organization, you need to be accountable to that. We need to be checking in 6 months saying, hey, are you doing that? You said you wanted more diversity. Have you gotten more diversity? You said you wanted to be more inclusive. We want to start using pronouns. We wanted to start making sure that we gave out transportation support. Are we doing that? And if you're not, we need to have a conversation about it. Like, you cannot, like, in your other roles, you cannot do your job and still have a job, right? So like, we need to hold people accountable. It's important. The last one is continue to ask questions, right? I put this at last one because, and someone said this earlier, you're never done. You're never done, friends. Keep on asking questions. Keep on being curious. Keep on showing up. Keep on asking hard questions of yourself and of others. This is how we become anti-racist. This is how we become anti-racist, right? Course said lifelong learning, okay? So friends, I got a couple action steps for you here. We're gonna pass all this up. But here are just a few action steps for you as we close out our time together today. So just a few action steps you can take in all 3 of these, okay? So again, there are 3 different actions. And I want you to know that you may be doing one, not the other. Okay. So I'm going to go through some of these, but then I want to add some for volunteerism specifically. Okay. Expand your network. That applies to volunteerism as well, right? Expand who gets to volunteer. Expand where you look for volunteers. Expand who gets to show up. How you think about who's volunteering. Expand that, right? Increase your knowledge of self and others. Okay. So when you invite other people to come volunteer with you, they may show up differently. You need to know, you need to have that knowledge. Hire for diversity. We need to be, because diversity makes us stronger. Okay. And then of course, read and diversify your library and your social media. Okay. When it comes to equity, give agency and choice. So think about what it would look like for you to give your volunteers choices and agency to show up how they want to show up. Right now, I know there's constraints, but can we think about decision points where we can give people agency and choice? All right, support BIPOC businesses, right? Friends, if you are feeding your volunteers, I'm not saying do this every time, but if there's food involved, if there's vendors involved with your volunteer experience, like I would take an audit and say, hey, how much money are we spending on our volunteer program? Can we divert some of that or redistribute some of that? I like that word better, to Black and brown vendors. Okay, that's an equity decision. That's something you can start doing. Pay folks for expertise. Again, I know y'all are new volunteers, but if people are long-term volunteers, right, we may not pay them what we would pay an employee, but can we think about compensation as some way? Compensation is not always money. Okay, all right, I'm gonna do inclusion and we're done. Be proactive. Again, not being reactionary. Think about, ask questions, figure out, Google, use ChatGPT, something. Figure out how to be proactive so when people show up, they feel welcomed. All right? Eliminate barriers. Simple. If people can't get to your volunteer experience, they can't volunteer. So we got to figure out how to decrease that barrier. Okay? Celebrate others. And the last one is use inclusive and nonviolent language. My most hated thing is when people after a presentation say you killed it or you crushed it. I didn't kill or crush anything. I'm sorry, I did a great job. Right? And so check our language. All right. All right, friends. We got about 3 minutes. Do I got time for this story? I'll do the story, then I'll be quiet. Friends, I went to the dentist a couple of days ago or a couple months ago, and I did what some of y'all did, where I brushed my teeth for 20 minutes before I got there. I mean, I was scrubbing, right? I used peroxide. I even flossed. And I go to the dentist, and the dentist said, "Donte, you haven't brushed your teeth." What do you mean? What do you mean I haven't brushed my teeth? I just spent 20 minutes doing this intense action, and you telling me it's not good enough? Well, no. So what do I need to do? He said, it was a woman. She said, "Donte, I just need you to brush your teeth for 2 times a day for 2 minutes and floss for like a minute." And I said, "That's it. That's it." Can I tell you as I leave you today, friends, I don't need you to do a big action. I don't need you to think about what big thing you can do to change the whole volunteer program in the state of South Carolina. I don't need for you to think about what you can do to change your organization. I need you to do a little action every single day, and we will get to justice. I need you to do a little action every single day. I need you to do a little action every single day, and your volunteer program will be more justice oriented. Your volunteer program will be more liberated. Just a little thing, not a big thing, just a little thing. Brush your teeth every single day. Do a small action every single day. Hey, thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all, and thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Donte, thank you so much. We want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to connect with you at Catch Your Dream Consulting. Join Donte's email list so that you can stay tuned for all of the things that he's got coming up. We've got so many resources that we're going to send to you to follow up from today's presentation. So please look for an email from us coming to you on Monday. And I'm going to drop some of those links in for you right now. It's going to be a whole bunch of links so you can go.
I just
I
just dropped my MailChimp link, friends. If you want to click on that, it will send you to a link to a list to subscribe to my email list. I hope that you would accept that invitation. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much, Donte. I know we're right at the top of the hour. I just dropped in a ton of links for Donte that you can keep in touch with him via email, LinkedIn, his website, and Instagram. I dropped in some of our information here at Get Connected by Galaxy Digital, and just look for that email to come from my colleague to you on Monday. And also, we've got another Minnesota resident coming to be with us in March, Holly, for our March webinar. So I hope to see everyone then.
Minnesota representing.
Yeah, Minnesota. We've got some great resources from MAVA.
Yeah. Oh, I love Marvel. Yeah. Shout out to you. I thank y'all so much for being here, friends. I say y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Donte. Thanks, everyone. Have a really beautiful day, and look for our email on Monday. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Awesome. Hey, Court.
Yeah.
I want to say I'm happy to stay on if anyone have any questions. Like.
Does anyone have? How many minutes do you have? I mean, I can stay on too. I'm more flexible.
I have a few minutes, friends. I see people are still here. If anyone have any questions or comments, or I guess you don't have comments, but if you don't have any questions, I'm happy to stay on for like 5 minutes and do
All right.
if anyone have any. But I do appreciate y'all. Thank y'all, friends.
I think there's a couple. We've got a lot of thank yous. Got a lot of thank yous. So, anyone have any questions? Donte said he could stay on for 5 more minutes, so that's amazing. You can drop that in the chat box.
Awesome. Someone said, can you share any podcast suggestions for DEI? Hyatt, I can't because I'm not a podcaster. You know what? I take that back. There is one podcast that I will share that I am listening to right now for a group that I'm in. Abraham X. Kendi, who is the author of How to Be Anti-Racist, just started a new podcast on how to be anti-racist. And he's bringing guests, and it's really, really good. You can, if you Google Kendi's work and look that up, you can find that podcast. It's free to do, and he just started that I think this year. So I would say start with some Kendi because he's amazing. How do we stop a conversation that's very negative towards diversity? How do we stop a conversation that's very negative towards diversity? Yeah, you know what? Honestly, Vic, that's a good question. And let me ask Raphael's question. I do not know who Thomas Stonewall is. I have no idea who that is. Sorry, I don't know anything. Victor, how do we start the conversation? You know what? I honestly think that there's always gonna be a conversation. I always think that because difference is something that we don't do naturally. So there's always gonna be some negativity towards it, and that's okay. I would argue that we're in the right space. Because if everybody was agreeing with us, if everybody was agreeing with diversity, I would be like, well, hold up, somebody right there, right? Like if it was too easy, I would be like, oh, wait a minute, right? So there's gonna be a challenge, and and that's just my perspective. So, I would say that one way you can do it though is to soften it. Maybe is to come in with a sense of curiosity. Don't try get rid of this notion or this spirit of try to prove your point or try to convert people, try to convince people, right? Like get rid of that. I'm not here to convert, convince, or do any of that with anybody. I really think of my work as like planting seeds, and then you got to water them and they will grow. So that's what I would say, friends. Sometimes the framing isn't us. When I think about the work that we do, like with young people, right? I do a lot of work with young people. I don't care what your political leanings are, whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you vote Democrat or Republican or whatever. You love your children, right? So can we find some common ground there? That we both love our children, right? Can we start there and in our conversation? How would you feel if your child was being bullied for something like pronouns? You see, it's about sometimes it's about how we articulate and how we show up to the conversation. Because a lot of times, and we learned this from child development, is that humans will mirror the energy. All right, I'm done. So that's what I'll say about that. Any other questions we have here?
Looks like there's a few more.
Awesome.
Pick one, maybe if you have to.
Yep. Is organization society responsible for not including pronouns in their signature? Is that an overt action to not be inclusive? Okay, Lynn, this is a good question. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I would say I would say it is a good habit to include pronouns. Here's why. I'm not gonna tell you to do it just to do it. I want to give you some reasoning behind it. Okay. The reason is it for me it's one of those adapting things. Okay. Even if everybody in the organization, if you think that everybody in the organization use the pronouns that match up with their gender identity and match up with their sex. So I'm a male, I use he, him, right? Even if you think you can see that, what happens when you send emails out to other people, right? like just the normalcy of normalizing pronouns is an inclusive action. Okay. Um, not doing something, you asked, is it an overt action to not be inclusive? It can be. I mean, there's a lot of fear around it. People don't understand, right? People don't understand they, them. Even though when someone cuts you off on the freeway, you don't say him or her. You say they cut me off. They as in one person, the driver. Right. So we already so it's just about, again, it's about understanding. And for me, I would rather lean on the side of inclusion. So again, just in case someone shows up and you want to use they them pronouns, or maybe also it's fluid. I use he them pronouns today. I could use they them pronouns tomorrow. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. We'll also be sharing resources from Minnesota. Yeah. Okay. When trying to be inclusive of individuals, different career fields, blue collar versus white, what are some techniques to bridge that gap? Jack. All right. I got you here. Different fields. Will you say more about that? Can you say more? I mean, I can tell you that, I think we need to be careful about how we think about professionalism in those spaces, right? People who are white collar tend to be more professional. And sometimes we'll think of people who are blue collar, right? Your factory workers, your manual labor folks. Sometimes they may get seen as not being as professional. So I think we need to think about how do we make professionalism a conversation at the organization. Things like time, right? Sometimes time, professional, you show up late, you late. We need to think about how do we think about time and how can we be more inclusive around giving grace. So that's just a few things. We can go on and on about that, but that professionalism piece, dig into that. Go read some articles about reframe professionalism. Um, that's what I would say about that, just to give you a quick thing. Absolutely. I run an affinity group that is currently filled with mostly white collar workers that are against being inclusive of the blue collar workers. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah. So I think too, Jack, um, like, again, maybe that's a conversation, right? Maybe you send them an article and say, like, here's why this is important. Um, right. But there's a power dynamic there, right? Because we think of white collar as more powerful. We think of white collar as more educated. And so we might need to think about, you might that look, and it's affinity group. So like the part of an affinity group is to have a conversation. So maybe you say, hey, I noticed this. Maybe you break them out by blue collar and white collar and say, we're going to have a conversation about the white collar folks and how y'all treating the blue collar folks. Again, if it's an affinity group, that might be an opportunity to do that very intentionally. So, but do something, because not doing nothing is harming, right? So that's what I would say. Great. I don't know if there's any more, Court. If not, we're going to be done here. I'm just going back up here. Yeah, I don't think I see any more. All righty, friends. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate y'all. I put my link to my newsletter one more time in there. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Court. Thank you for making this happen. Thank y'all for spending some OT with me. And yeah, God bless you too, Vic. I appreciate y'all. Victor, sorry. We're not homies like that. We could be homies. Do people call you Vic? I just shorthanded your name. Like, dude, I can't be calling you Vic. That's not that's not okay. All right, cool. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Victor. Thank y'all so much, fam. Appreciate y'all. Have a great Thursday. And hopefully I see y'all soon on LinkedIn or somewhere soon. All right. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, definitely stay connected with Donte, and also reach out to him. He does consulting. So if you want to keep going deeper, there's more to go. Can find you on your website and on your email address, I'm guessing, or on your email list.
Yep, all that good stuff. Reach out. Yep, reach out. Like, I'm available, friends. Like keynotes, workshops, trainings, consulting if you need some of that. But yeah, so I'm available. Digital. I mean, we can do it virtual too, right? Would I rather leave Minnesota in the winter and be in California? You better believe I would. But we need to do something virtually. We can do something virtually too. So all right, y'all.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much
y'all.
for your extra time today, Donte. I really appreciate it. And we'll be following up with all of you on Monday. So, all right, I'm going to close it down, and y'all take care. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Donte.
Yeah, Victor, call me. Peace.
Bye.